Welcome to this week's episode of 60 Seconds with the Superintendent. Well, as you can see behind me, we've got dots everywhere because earlier this week it was International Dot Day. Let's take a look at how some of our elementary schools celebrated this event.
The story is about a little girl who is having difficulty putting something down on paper. She doesn't have any confidence. And when she does get that mark down on the paper and her teacher makes a big deal about it, it really inspires her to do so much more. And it's really important, I think, for kids to be able to verbalize how they're feeling, and the book kind of teaches you how to do that. And we talk about how Vashti's feeling before, how she's feeling afterwards. I try to do that in my classroom and really try to have a really positive atmosphere where everybody feels that they're important and welcome and that they are free to explore. It was exciting to see what they came up with. Some kids used lines and shapes to add on top of theirs. Other kids liked just kind of mixing the colors. And we also had the staff come in, which was really fun too because they were just as excited. And they came up with all kinds of ideas too, and so it was fun to see what they were coming up with.
International Dot Day was brought to my attention by our art teachers, Mrs. Gary and Mrs. Moon and Mrs. McCula, and they were very excited to make it a school-wide thing, and they shared a lot of resources of how to integrate it into literacy.
What about you, David?
And so we took the idea of the Dot Day and we used the lesson in the story and connected it to some of our writing standards to create a writing lesson for her students.
And then, you know what?
It was amazing to get to see their eyes light up as they're talking about acts of kindness and making that connection from not just inside of school, how they can use these acts of kindness in their community, in their homes, and then also relate it to the content that we're doing.
Big part of my job.
And it was great that we had such an awesome school resource officer in school today to kind of highlight some other acts of kindness and show how the acts of kindness that he does in his profession and how important it is to really create a loving community.
Nice job!
This is not just an artistic endeavor, but it's a community and culture building endeavor for each of the buildings. The neat thing was we all kind of did our own spin on it, but we're all sharing in a project that the kids are doing from building to building together. We've had amazing support from all of the teachers in this building. When Dot Day started to spread, I've had a lot of teachers approaching me, sharing their love for the book, and we've decided to come up with a bunch of cross-curricular lessons. So you really start to see this lesson kind of taking its own forms and its own life based on the different teachers and based on their different contents. I think students, especially with the crazy few years we've had, have not really gotten to explore art making to their fullest capability. So for us as art teachers, we wanted to really start to break out materials they hadn't seen in some time and let them unleash their creativity. But we're really exploring project-based learning and UDL and allowing them to show their own form of representation as they create. So when you look at these, it's 600 different approaches to one project and one message. And I think that's really where the impact is, that when the students can see this in the hall and the excitement grows as the project grows, you see the kids all starting to see their own individual touch on a big collaborative piece.
We kind of all started with something called printmaking, and they had a set color that they could pick from, but then the kids learned how to do what's called a monoprint, and they could make their own designs and then add details later on. I'm sure you see up here there's some turned into monsters, there's some that turned into eyeballs, there's all sorts of things that the kids could make out of their dots. I loved starting with this because it got the kids creating right away, and I love that we get to start with paint and it gets the kids so excited. But I also love that they are learning that there is no right or wrong answer. You know, I don't want you to make exactly what I make. I want you to make your own things and be as creative as you can, express yourself. And it's really led to like a self-confidence boost for a lot of kids. They come out here, they're really enthusiastic to see what they've created and share with their friends and tell their families about it. So I think that it will lead to a really positive rest of the year.
I love art. It's one of my favorite specials, and the dot is all pink because it's my favorite color.
So I created the Vashti's first dot in the frame because I know that everyone always has a bad day, and just to get started on making it better, I chose this dot.
I made this shirt representing the book, The Dot. And I created it out of paper dots, just how she did in the book.
I loved how Vashti, she made a mark, and by the time she finished all of her dots, she had a huge museum, and that shows that she never gave up.
You know, one of the things we always talk about is small acts, small things can make huge differences. And that's what this day is all about. How are we going to make our mark not only on the world, but in our classrooms, in our communities, and with one another? As always, thanks for watching, and go make it a great Mustang week.